there, they were arrested for embezzlement, charges they deny, and held hostage.
The main accusations against the six that they had tried to renegotiate the Citgo debt without consulting with PDVSA or Maduro. The military officer behind their arrest said in court that Venezuelan authorities.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. You got it. Yeah, end of May. Kids into school. Thank you for being here. I think what we're hoping for the conversation, Jose and I, is a nice back and forth. We want to talk about his story, the resilience piece, as it relates to you all as leaders, in this unimaginable journey that he went through. That actually we want to do here with you. We also want to touch into your story as it relates to conscious capitalism, and then give you all a chance to ask questions. So I think I wanted to start with just this curious question about in 2017, you find yourself wrongly detained along with 5 others called the...
It didn't come easy. Those 48 hours was a lot of mixed emotion because, again, when you're going to any extreme situation, the first thing that happens is that you will deny it. Oh. I was in the denial mode. This is not happening to me. And I didn't accept it. This is something wrong. There's a mistake. There's a misunderstanding. A lot of things going on. The day after we were taken to the court, and then when we were going to the court, there was a handyman working in there, another angel, and the handyman saw us, and he had a newspaper, and he said, "Hey, you want to read something?" And he gave me the newspaper, and when I opened the newspaper, I saw the breaking news that we were taking not hostage, that we were accused to be American spies and had committed treason to the country and corruption, embezzlement, a lot of things. And when I saw that news, I said, okay, this is something more serious than I expected. Well, that was that first impression, that was key, having that message in that moment.
Thank you. I know that first year you spent in solitary, and it sounds like as bad as one could imagine. How did you manage the mental health side of things? I asked with the context of we're at this time now where we're not doing great as a society with our mental health, and yours was a very different situation, and I don't mean to compare that, but how do we help each other?
When I was put in solitary there, your mind begins to go all over the place because you don't know what's going on. It begins to, all your memories begin to come back. And I was in a very extreme situation because we had the lights 24/7 turned on. We were not allowed to turn them off. So I didn't have, I watched nothing. I didn't know. At some point, you lose the sense of the time. But the first thought, I'm going to say it, I had a lot of suicidal thoughts in that moment because I began to think, okay, now you're here in a communist regime accused of being an American spy, so you can stay here forever. So that was my first impression. I said, okay, so I'm not going to make this. I'm not going to stay here forever. But, it began to be a process that now I begin to think in my family. I begin to think in her. I begin to think in my kids, and you begin to think that you need to do something. And she did something that blew my mind. That she flew to Venezuela. She took the risk and she visited me. We had like a 3-hour visit, and it was a surprise when I saw her there. By the way, but by that moment, due to the sanctions going to Venezuela, she had to go to Mexico, from Mexico to Colombia. So it was a crazy trip to go to Venezuela. But she appeared there, and they allow me to talk with her 3 hours. And when we had a conversation, that she told me what they were doing, and they have engaged the U.S. government. So that gave me something that is called the hope. Now you're having hope. And when I came back from that visit, I came back with hope. And then this is something so needed in today's world, that people need to have hope. And so now I'm thinking in my family. I'm thinking that I need to come back to them. And I found in the floor a small needle, so I begin to scratch in the wall the base, and I begin to hear that at 6 a.m. in the morning they had the because it was a military installation. You can hear the trumpet 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. So I begin to count the days. I begin to count the days, and I begin to know that the time was passing. I had a lot of time to reflect my life. And this is something that today, by the way, I talk. That I was in the top of my career, the pinnacle of my career. Everything ready to get retired, and this happened to me. I didn't understand why I was going through the process. But at the same time, you say, okay, I need to come back in one piece to my family. So now that begins to shift your minds.
Yeah.
It begins to shift your minds.
Yeah. Thank you. Um, you talk about after the first year, things loosened up a bit, and you were able to get reunited with your five. So the band's back together, still in these horrific conditions, but not in solitary. And then you talk about slowly over time beginning to find a kind of traction. I think if for all of us, like we think about in chaotic times or lots of change, like how do we find traction and or any kind of flow to our day? What you kind of start to speak to, and I would love to hear your thoughts of this, is this unsexy but true point about just like routines and habits, and day to day what you're doing becomes who you become. Can you talk a little bit about some of the routines that developed during that time?
Yeah. After 1 year, we were, because the pressure was really high, we were having some kind of communications, because the thing that we did, things incredible to get communicated. So we were aware that they were trying to, do something with the U.S. government. So now the six families are together, but the first recommendation was to stay quiet. So the government asked them to stay quiet. That's wrong. Today I tell the families, go loud, go to the press, do all the noise that you can. That was what was the recommendation? So they stayed 1 year without saying nothing. So after 1 year, they decided to go to the press, and then that exploded in the press. All the press began to, what's going on with these guys? So it began to be a lot of pressure to the government here and there. So that's why they decided to put us together. Because another of the things is that the thing began to go so bad that they recalled the two ambassadors. So the thing got to that level. The two ambassadors recalled, so no ambassadors. And then there was a commission of the UN that flew to Venezuela and intervened. So the thing began to escalate. Long story short, they decided to put us together. This was really a game changer, because answering your question, one of the key things that the people have to do and you are in business. Normally, when you begin to go to the top of the ladder, you begin to stay alone, because now you're alone. You're the boss, and you begin to isolate yourself, and this is wrong. It's a big mistake. You need to get connected with the people.
Jose, this is important. Speak loud so they can hear you in the back.
Yeah. Okay. You need. Yeah. Are you hearing me back?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So you have to get connected with the people, because the connection with the people is what's gonna keep you going. And it can be your peers, your management team, your the people that are surrounded for you, and the people that love you, your loved ones. Because one of the big mistakes that you do when you're climbing in the corporate ladder, that you begin to get so focused in your job that you begin to miss your family. And this is a big, big mistake. Every time she called me, I never had time for her. Every time she called me, I was in a board meeting. Never had time to her. I always was asking her to speed up because I was so busy. And now I'm here in that situation, begging for a 1 minute call. Begging, literally begging for a 1 minute call. So it's so important, that connection. So one of the things that for us was key was when they put us together. And this is something that we have talked extensive. I have a therapist that it's part of my journey. He's the prologue in my book. He runs a big trauma center in North Carolina. And he told me the other day we were talking, he said, Jose, the difference between your case and another case is that you were together. There have been a lot of people that have been long time in isolation. When we were got together, we created a strong bond. And it happened something that blew my mind. Today, I think that is something that the hands of God. We were 6 guys, randomly selected because we were not friends. 6 guys with 30 plus years married. 30 plus. I had 31, Tomeo had 32, Alirio had 33, the other had 31. What is the probability that 6 guys that are picked up randomly had 30 plus year married? We were like in a social experiment. We were like in a social experiment. And when we begin to talk, because these guys for me were coworkers, I didn't know their family, their story, I didn't know nothing about them. And when you begin to know their stories, what? 30 years? I have 31. And a lot of things in common. 3 guys, we were big rock fans, and the other were big food fans. We begin to find a lot of commonalities. And that began to create a great commonality. And we did something that we call it the survivor plan. And by the way, that's part of why that I put in my coaching program. Because that things, for example, having a routine. Something important is having a daily routine. And again, if you're in your business, no matter what is your business, have your daily routine. Do the journaling, walk your dogs, do something that gives you joy. Because that will set the tone in your life. And if you're a Christian, pray in the morning. Do your morning praise. I today wake up every 4 a.m. in the morning and we pray. 4 a.m. we're praying. We're expressing gratitude to God for us. But now we created a routine. It was so simple but so powerful because we created a routine to keep busy the day long. We begin in the morning something that we were in a very confined room, 100 square feet for 6 guys, 3 barack beds, a tiny restroom, and a small table with a chair. The first time we saw a table and a chair was after 1 year because we were eating in the floor. So now we have a chair and a table. So we decided, okay, let's do an agenda to eat. So everybody could eat in peace. The other were sitting there. So now you're with your food. Because the other thing is that we were starving. And one of the things that they begin to relax and they asked the family to bring us food. And our family, she began to bring me food that was complicated logistics. So my eldest son, he moved to Colombia. And he stayed 4 years providing me food from Colombia. Every week he was doing that, and somebody was picking the box of the groceries, and they cook and they deliver to me. But that may be something because I'm now receiving food every 3 days. So and the thing in Venezuela was so terrible that I had to return the trash cans because they had to recycle them. So I began to figure out how to, because I was not having communication with her. So I began to eat I created double bottles in the cans, and I began to smuggle her letters. And we kept doing that during 3 years. And that
How many letters?
we smuggled like around 1,000 letters between me and her during 3 years. And when I came back, she had compiled those letters, and that's what you see in that book. So that book is based on those letters that I have written about what was my diary. And
So it was easy to write.
well, not easy. No,
yeah.
let me tell you, not easy
No.
because when I came back, I was God does things miraculously. It's incredible because I already had compiled the letters. I could have published that book the month after, but I began to go and many things that we can talk later. But long story short, I published 1 year after. But during that year, I could reflect a lot on what had been going back to my spirituality, my church. So it became to be like a revelation. So I did a turning point in the book to try to be more reflective on how you can handle things in life and overcome it. So that the book now has that tone that if I had that published in the beginning, maybe we would not have it. So having a routine is very important. Having a routine.
Thank you. One thing two things. One, you're the easiest person I've ever interviewed. Thank you. Two, Jose shared with me something interesting when we were chatting a couple of weeks ago, which is the six of them, men, each had their own faith tradition, came from a different background, sort of skewed Christian worldview. The point is, it was very interesting that there was a gentleman who was from a Buddhist faith background, and they were able to incorporate a lot of his background into some of the physical aspects to keep their minds and their bodies in kind of a holistic approach.
Yeah.
So it was a really cool picture to me about multiple faiths kind of being able to fold and dance together.
Yeah, it was incredible because one of the guys, he was not only Buddhism, he was a marathon runner, a professional marathon runner. So he created us a daily routine of exercise. And when I tell my wife, I'm doing push-ups, first time in my life. Now I'm this guy doing push-ups. So we created that routine, doing exercise, doing meditation. We began to meditations. We began to do Bible studies. It was so funny for me because I come from a Catholic family of a very Catholic country. Venezuela is very Catholic. But I was away from God. I was so busy that I didn't have time for that. And I remember one day going to my job in very near here, the Andrews Parkway, where Citgo. I was living by the time in Cyprus, so I took the highway 290 that by that time had like 10 years under construction. So, since God, when I came back, it was done. So I had to go take a turn in the Highway 6 and go all the way Highway 6 to get to the airport. So going one day, but I believe maybe in August, to the Highway 6, there are a lot of Bibles there and the churches there, sorry. And I saw a lot of signs saying that they're going to be doing Bible studies. And I was going with my driver, and I told my driver, Felix, who is wasting time doing Bible studies? And, he didn't say nothing to me. Maybe I don't know what he thought about that, but, we kept doing Bible study for the next 4 years. So we began to really do it in a deeply way. And now we have this friend that he prays Buddhism, and he went in the night, because we took like 3 hours in the night, literally to read profoundly the Bible and to pray. And we began to for me, it was a total rediscovery. Going back to the Bible and being there, reading the book of Job or the Psalms, or reading the story of Paul, or the story of of many men like Joseph or Daniel, it begin to resonate a lot to us. So we really begin to see a lot of signs that we say, okay, now you're talking to me. Now you're talking to me. And that was really incredible that we're doing that. He was giving his Buddhism pray, and he was hearing us, and he began to say, hey, but we, the Buddhism, talk about that. The Buddhism talks about that you have to have the God in your heart, and there's a part in the Bible that said that God is inside you. So there's a lot of things that are more in common than not. And it was beginning to be very interesting how the interaction began to go, and that was part of our daily routine. Yeah.
I'm going to take a shift here where we get to move into conscious capitalism,
Okay.
which is I got a chance to chat with folks beforehand, and I think as they want to hear story plus a little bit about conscious capitalism and your route into it. Raise your hand if you've heard of conscious capitalism / know something about it. All right. Yeah, half-ish. Started 2013 or so by the Whole Foods CEO at the time, John Mackey and Raj Sisodia. Whole Foods and others like Whole Foods had this philosophy that said, we exist to serve more than just making our shareholders happy, and that we're working toward a higher purpose, that profits matter, but also do employees, do customers, do partners and vendors. The whole ecosystem works better if we're doing it in a thoughtful way, which is to say conscious or intentional or deliberate. There's 1,000 ways and synonyms for conscious, but awake to more than this number. I interned at Southwest Airlines 25 years ago in PR, and I got to see it up close. They treated the interns like family from the jump. They let us travel and write stories that were in the Spirit magazine and in the airplanes, and you saw family photos all over corporate offices. They were calling it the people department before that was a thought. It's always was HR, human resources, which is a little limiting. I think what I'm curious about, just hopefully that helps shed a little bit of light on it. We're in 2024. What I'd love to see is the movement keep growing. And I think there's a real opportunity for Houston to do that. There's the national movement, but the chapter level at the local level is what kind of really mattered more. What was your first introduction to conscious capitalism? What was the appeal for you?
Well, let me say something before we go there. I always had belief, and this is something that I really strongly believe, because when I did my career, I did it in the international side. So I had the opportunity to work with a lot of culture. So I remember beginning my career working with the Italians, and then always with my parent company, PDVSA, and joint ventures. I worked with the Japanese and with Chinese and with British people, with French, American companies, Norwegian companies, uh, a lot of cultures, and Vietnamese companies, Malaysian companies, so a lot of cultures. So it was so different, the culture, but what connected always was a human connection. So I really believe in that. And all my career, I did it with that path. Thinking in the people and thinking in the relation from the human side. So when I came back, I began to talk about this. And part of my coaching, it talks about this. So one day I remember I got connected with Leslie because I did an interview. I had done like 200 podcasts now. So one of the podcasts that I did here, I believe was with this lady of
Yeah,
Houston City Beach.
Houston City Beach.
Yeah, Houston City Beach. She interviewed me, and she had interviewed Leslie like 1 week before. And when she heard me talking, she contacted me, and I didn't know about this movement. When I saw the philosophy behind conscious capitalism, I connected immediately because I really believe in that. So this is a great movement because it talks about doing things intentionally with purpose, and then the service first and the profit comes after. And this is something that is biblical, by the way, because the Bible says that you as human beings, you plant the seed, but who grows the tree is God. So there's something superior behind you. So it's the way that you can provide. So this movement has this philosophy that is very related to me, and I hope that this movement continue growing here in Houston.
Thank you. One of the things we do with Savage Brands, which I don't know, it somehow got left out of my bio, but that's where I am now, and loving it. There's Bethany, our CEO. We come up with a purpose word. We're encouraged to do that, and a lot of times it's hard to see that without getting outside eyes on it. A purpose word. Mine is gather. Is that there's something deeply resonant, and I had never done this exercise before. The closest I'd ever gotten was bring people together. But it is amazing. I've had this kind of 6 months to try it on this band as a criteria from which to make decisions. Do this, don't do that. This group, not that group. I mean, it really simplifies things. And there's a part of me that goes, what one decision can I make that will eliminate 100 others? So having a purpose word has been massively effective for time and other things, as a guiding way. Do you have one that you've come up with in terms of as a phrase or a guiding word? I mean, clearly you have a purpose, but is that something you've done?
Well, my motto is something that, by the way, I have in my wristband. That is never give up. That for me, that is my motto. Never give up. So, and this is again, if you're in the business world, sometimes you can fail. If you're running your own business, you can fail. Maybe as a CEO, you can fail too. That doesn't mean that this is the end of the road. Sometimes those setbacks are part of your comeback. And today this is even a study, and the fringy leadership, that those that can learn from the failures and come back, not only bouncing back, coming back stronger. So this is the real nature. So for me, the never give up is a key word, because there's something that for me is part of my motto. That is that determination. Yeah, those leaders that have determination are going to be the leaders that always will succeed. Determination is the fuel that keeps you going. The people talk about resilience, and it's important, but the resilience without determination, because determination is that will keep you going. No matter how much you fail, you will go and go and go, and you will get there. I'm gonna give a small snippet that something that for me was like something that, again, a lot of signs that during my journey, I believe that always was God giving a lesson. 1 year before we were released, the negotiation had already going on. One day we received a visit of the ambassador, Roger Carson, that he was running. There is an office here in the U.S. that maybe people that are not so aware. There is a special presidential office for hostage affair. He's a subsecretary of state, has a rank And by the way, 1 month ago we were in Washington with them, and this guy he did the direct negotiation to our release. So the first time that he met in Venezuela in person with us, for us was a surprise. When he appeared and he introduced himself, and we had like a 3 hour talk. When we were finishing, I remember that I told Ambassador Carsten, uh, Ambassador, we're gone. I don't know when, but we're gone. And I began to really believe it. And when I came back, for that time already, the relations were trying to move on, and the situation was a little bit more relaxed. We were having more phone calls. So I remember, like, I called my wife, and I told her, "Hey, ask Edgar." Edgar was the guy in charge of my logistics. Ask Edgar to please bring me a small carry-on, and ask him to put some clothes inside. And she told me, "Why you want to do that?" I said, "Because I'm going to go, and I'm going to be ready." So she brought me she know the guy that weekend brought me the luggage with some clothes. And I put it in a corner. And every morning I talk to the luggage. I talk to the luggage. Say, "Hey, my friend, be ready because you're going to go with me." It took a year, and I came back with the luggage. And not only I came back, that the first week we were here in a military base in San Antonio, and I was with that luggage without clothes. So, and I remember when I came back, my daughter saw me, and she said, "Hey, that appears like he's coming from a vacation." Because for me, that luggage became to be my dreams, and this is something that sometimes the people forget. That sometimes you have a dream and you don't fulfill it because, well, things happen, life happen, and you keep going. So that for me, that became a metaphor that sometimes you lead your dream, and that are your dream, and instead of carrying those, you carry a big luggage in your shoulder, and things begin to be very heavy. No, give that to God, and stick to your dreams. So that's my recommendation to everybody.
Thank you. I would love to, well, first off, let's give a round of applause where you came from. Appreciate so much is the openness to share. Nothing seems off the table from what you've gone through, and to be able to share that with us is a gift. And we're smart people. We can connect dots and hear some of the things that you've gleaned and figure out how to apply it to our leadership and our personal lives. With that, I would love to hear who has questions that that they'd like that they're curious about for Jose to answer. Sorry, I should have said at the beginning we're going to do this.
Wait,
Oh, no.
you know what? I have something.
Yeah.
Jose, would you share with the people here the book besides the Bible, the other book that gave you purpose? What was that book?
Oh yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. By the way, sorry that you can see the video, but in the video, the part of the interview that I did with Anderson Cooper, 1 month after I came back, he interviewed me in his program 360. Yes, in CNN. He's an awesome guy. And we got connected because of that book. Because I don't know who told him that I talked about that book, and he said, "I want to talk with that guy." So the point is that uh, at some point we beginning to have a little bit more relaxed situation. And we were with a political prisoner of Venezuela, with a military political prisoner, because we were in a military base. And with me were a lot of high-ranked military. So my neighbor of cell was a 3-star general. One of the most high-ranked general of Venezuela. He was a prisoner. But because he was a general, he had some privilege. One of the privileges that he had, that his family was allowed to bring him a lot of books. That kind, every week I don't know, 20 books. And one day I believe I was coming from the visit, because the guy that was making the logistics, he began to be authorized to visit me during the Saturdays. And I was coming, and he said, "Hey, Jose, hey, I read this book. You have to read this book." And he gave it to me. I saw that book, Man in a Search for a Meaning, Viktor Frankl.
Anybody read it?
I never, first time, I didn't know what the book was about. So with that, I began to read the book. Oh, that was God talking to me. Because that guy was in a situation so similar to us, things that I read in the book, we were going through that, but he was talking about how you can find meaning and how you can find purpose in the pain, and a lot of tools that for us was like a game changer. So I got connected with Anderson because that is his book. He every year he gives to his friend that book. So so it's incredible how that book has changed life in
Yes.
millions of persons. Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah, well, and that's one of the reasons I reached out to you because you mentioned that, and that's
and you have it in
and
your
my
quote.
signature. Yes,
Oh, right.
yes.
In the quote, yeah.
Questions? Beth, yeah.
I'm curious. You mentioned earlier we got integrated with Phi, so the six together, and you said, we worked together for all these years, but I didn't know anything about them. And I'm always interested in that as a leader and culture is like, where is this line or this balance of getting to know people really well, and then you've also got a place of position, and you don't want to try too far. And it's not really a question, it's just an interest.
That's a very interesting question because there is something that people sometimes is perceived that if you go that way, you could be seen as weak. That is called the empathy. And a leader has to be empathic. And the only way to be empathic is knowing the people, knowing what are their things. Because you can have a good manager in your team, but this guy is a human being. He can have a hard moment in his life. So if you don't know him from the human side, maybe this guy having a hard time and you don't know. And that will affect your company. And not only that, when you begin to be more empathic with the person and you connect with more from the human side, that becomes a secret sauce because it's no brainer because now you connect more with the people begin to be more loyal to you. Not only get more loyal to you, you begin to be a model to them. So it becomes to be a ripple effect in the company. Sometimes people think that if you're too open, you're gonna be perceived as weak. So sometimes you create that shield. But the truth is, in the more empathic that you are, the more good leader that you're gonna be.
Did you create that shield
Of course, I
at
created it.
Citgo?
Yes, I did it. I did it. By the way, I remember a story when I began my career. That I began one of my first leadership position. I remember that when I was appointed to that position, I have a big office with a secretary. I was a big boss. And my friends we used to do a weekly barbecue. And one day they stopped calling me to go to the barbecue. And I didn't know what was going on. And one day I saw one of the guys say, "Hey, why do you stop calling me?" He said, "No, your secretary said that you're always in meetings. You don't have time for that." So she had created a shield for me.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes it's not you, it's your employee that create your shield. That's why it's so important that you, when you're in a leadership position, try to have that connection. I didn't. When I was here in Citgo, I came here early in the morning and I did a tour of the office and talk with the people. Talk to them.
What do you think you learned through your ordeal that you wish you would have known as a leader before going through this? Maybe empathy is one of those things, but what else?
Well, one of the things that's important is that don't losing the connection with your spirituality. It's so important. So important. For me, a leader needs to have a connection with your spirituality, no matter what you believe. No matter what you believe. Because that keeps you grounded. That keeps you grounded. Because I'm a Christian guy, and I believe that when you make that connection, that brings everything to you. And another thing that I didn't do was expressing gratitude. And you have to be grateful. if you're in that position, you are not there because you're out. Because that was what happened to me. That I was so successful that I thought it was because of me. And I never expressed gratitude. And so there are seems like silly things that are so important. Expressing gratitude, so important. So, right.
I think there was one over here. Yeah. Back here.
Thank you very much for sharing the stories. It's impossible to put myself in your shoes, but I'm imagining over the course of 5 years, I would be building up an amazing amount of resentment and anger towards Citgo, towards the Venezuelan government. But you're a man of faith. Can you talk a little bit about forgiveness and how that's played into your story?
Very important. Thanks for asking. Forgiveness is key in everything. If you don't forgive, you're gonna be a hostage forever. So now you're not a physical hostage. You're gonna be a mental hostage. So the forgiveness is key. So forgiveness for me is key in my healing process. Today I don't have nothing in my heart. Nothing in my heart. I took that away. My church has been incredible part of my journey. So my pastor and how that today I'm part of a ministry that my wife and I are part of them. We are part of two ministries in the church. One is the senior citizen ministry, and one is we have a lot of
There's no way.
extended youth people. And we have also a ministry of it's called the Art of Giving, where we connect non-perishable foods and have those food drives, and it's a blessing. But they're doing that today. But that process of forgiveness is important in your life. If somebody has something in their life and doesn't it has unresolved, after you go out, pick up the phone and call the person. Sometimes it's important and forgive. Forgive. It's important. Yeah.
You had one. Are you good? You got it. Okay.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, do the six of you gather? What is the position now of the six? And do you gather? And then how have the others changed their lives? We're listening to you tonight, and thank you for telling us how you changed your life.
It's interesting that the guy that he was a marathon runner. He still is running marathons. Yeah, he's running marathon, and he began to be a speaker too. And he has been. I believe we both are the most have gone to the process that in the advocacy. He has gone much more further. He has been going to the UN and human rights. I'm not in the human rights side, so I decided to move on in my leadership because I came from that world, and I believe that I now have the experience that I can do a better leadership experience. So the other four guys, they went silent. So they decided that, and it's okay. Everybody has the way to
no
handle.
reunion.
No, we met every 3-4 times in the year. I met with one of them in Washington last month, and like 2 months ago in December we met. We were talking that maybe we need to meet more frequently. This October, the ambassador Carson that he released us today, he's not in office. He's a director of one of the foundations, and he told me that he wants to come out in October to have a meeting with the six of us to celebrate the third anniversary. So we're gonna do a gathering, and maybe we're gonna try to do this more frequently, like a band of brother thing. Yeah.
Is there a movie?
Oh, wow! I had some conversation. Yeah. Yeah.
Who do you want to play you?
Huh?
Who do you want to play
I would
you?
like your Clooney.
Perfect.
They can put some beer or something there.
I don't think we can top that.
Yay.
A big round of applause for Leslie.
If you would like to know more about that, please speak up. Please let us know. The invitation actually also has my email on it if you want. Sign up at consciouscapitalism.com. Find under About Us, find Houston Chapter. Sign up for our mailing list. Get on that. Tamara wonderfully hosts what is it? This
You have to be an early rising.
yes.
Once a month, 7:30 a.m. online. I lead a conscious conversation, but you can bring your leadership problems and we'll solve them for you.
Yes. And it's always a topic. And so we go into small breakout rooms, so we help each other, and then we come back with the big overall picture of what they are. And so this past month, it was the hype cycle as it relates to conscious capital.
And June 17th, by the way, don't hold me that day because sometimes I get the day wrong. But it's the third Tuesday of every month.